Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video we're going to be looking at the multiple choice for Math Methods Paper 1 Tech Free of the 2022 external exam for the QCAA syllabus. So this one here, this is pretty much for the Australian Queensland syllabus. This is pretty much just 2022's multiple choice. This is pretty much no character allowed. You will be able to use the formula sheet provided on the exam, but otherwise let's just get straight into this exam, okay? If you have any questions at all with any of these questions here, leave something in the comments and I'll try my best to answer it, but let's get straight into it. So question 1, consider the graph of f dash of x for a, for pretty much a less than x less than equal to b. So pretty much between the values of a and b. Now this is the derivative, okay? So don't be fooled by this, okay? Now, which of the statement describes all local maximum and minima of the graph f of x over this domain, pretty much, okay? Now here, we've just got to think about this. Okay, so if this is f dash of x, now we can see clearly it's a quadratic, okay? So let's just say it was like x squared, okay? That means f of x is going to look like some sort of cubic, okay? Now, here, the x-intercepts of your derivative are going to be your stationary points on your actual function, okay? So here what this tells me is, alright, this is the graph of the derivative, okay? So that means the gradient is positive up until a, and it's positive once it passes this value here. Now, do we actually know what that value is? I think I crossed out. It's 0, okay? So once it passes 0, so when pretty much, if f of x is, less than a, then f dash of x is positive. If f of x is greater than 0, then f dash of x is positive. So it's positive gradient here, okay? It's a negative gradient here, okay? Now we've got two stationary points, okay? Now we got to work out pretty much this structure here, okay? So here, if it's going from a positive rate of change to a negative rate of change, what that means is you have a maximum, okay? So the reason why this is because here, if I were to draw this, you can see the gradient is positive, then it turns negative. Now how we can tell that is where these lines are facing. So if the lines are facing, these tangent lines are facing to the right pretty much, at any orientation, that is positive. If the tangent lines are facing this way to the left, that is negative. So if something goes from a positive gradient to a negative gradient, that is a maximum. So that is a maximum, okay? Now here, we look at this guy here. This is going from a negative rate of change to a positive rate of change. So that indicates a minimum. So that means it's going pretty much like this, okay? So going down like that. So here that would be the negative, and then it turns into the positive like this, okay? Now, pretty much that's a minimum. So we have one minimum and one maximum, okay? Now let's read this statement here. So one local minimum, one local maximum. That seems correct. One local minimum and two local maximums. Now, that's not correct. There's no other maximums because here we don't know any other points where the parabola equals 0. Okay, and a parabola will only have two solutions. One local minimum only, that's incorrect, that's incorrect, that's incorrect. So I'd say the answer is A. Okay. Now when I actually did this, because this is the test I did when I was in the exam, right? I read this question completely wrong. I thought this was f of x. And I think I answered it. I still answered A because I thought, alright, that's a minimum and that's a maximum there. But that's not how you're supposed to answer this question. You're supposed to answer it like this, okay? So I'll point out my errors like I just did then. But this is actually how you answer the question. Because remember, this is f dash. This is not f of x, okay? So pretty much the x-intercepts on your derivative are your stationary points. So these 2 points here indicate you have two stationary points. You have either two maximums, two minimums, or one of each. And we have one of each because of this concept here, okay? If you have any questions about this one, leave something in the comments, but I'm moving on to the next question, okay? Alright, question 2. A binomial random variable arises from the number of successes of n independent Binomial trials. Now, a Binomial trial is a binomial, but it's got n equals 1, okay? So here, a binomial random variable is basically saying, alright, we're taking a Bernoulli trial, but we're pretty much doing it n number of times, okay? A context not suitable for modeling a binomial random variable is recording the number of, and then they give a couple examples. So here we need to work out which one of these is not binomial. So let's understand what binomial probability is. You have to have two events. So you have to have either this event or not this event. Okay? So for example, a head when a coin is tossed 12 times. Well, if you're tossing a coin, you can have heads or tails. Now that is binomial because the probability also remains constant. So you have to have two things, but the probability of each of them things have to remain constant. So they have to both be that same number no matter what. So that is binomial. So that's not the correct answer, but that is binomial. Left-handed people in a sample of 100 people. Well, if you have left-handed people, you also have right-handed people. So that is not that is binomial. Now we're not accounting for people that can use both. That's silly. There's a very, very small number of that. So you've also got to take some context with this, like one here as well. The times a player hits a target from 20 shots where each shots were independent of the other shots. This is binomial because here he could hit the target or not hit the target, and here each shot is independent of other shots. That basically means the probability of the first shot doesn't affect the probability of the second shot. Okay? D. Red marbles are selected when 3 marbles are drawn without replacement. Okay, so as soon as I see without replacement, that is not binomial because that means the probability is changing because the sample size is getting smaller because you're not putting them back. So this is not binomial, so this is the correct answer. Okay? If you have any questions about this one here, leave something in the comments and I'll try my best to answer it. Okay? Question 3. The area between the curve y equals 9 minus x squared and the x-axis. So we pretty much need to know what this curve looks like. So from pretty much the previous course in unit 1 and 2, you should know this is a parabola. Okay. Now here, if you set y equal to 0, you'll get 9 minus x squared, and that means equals 0. So here you get x squared equals 9. So you get x equals plus or minus 3. So that means that's that value there, and then that's that value there. Now it says the area between the curve and the x-axis, that's talking about this area here. So we need to set up that integral. So obviously we know our bounds and we know our function, okay? So it's actually quite easy. It'd be the integral from -3 to 3 of 9 minus x squared dx, okay? And all you gotta do is evaluate this integral, okay? So here, pretty much add 1 to the power, divide by the new power. So this will be 9x minus x cubed on 3. And you have the bounds -3 and 3. Now remember, this is without a calculator, so you have to do all this by hand. So I'm going to be rubbing things out just because I don't have a lot of room here. So chuck in the first number, so you'll have 9 times 3 minus 3 cubed on 3. Then you're going to have minus 9 times -3 minus -3 cubed on 3. Okay? So here, let's try and simplify that. So here you have a 3 cubed and a 3 on the bottom. So if you want to cancel this out and get rid of that to a 2, you can do that with both of them, okay? Because they're the same number. Right, so let's get rid of those, just to make it a bit easier on ourselves. So here, deal with the negatives. I would say deal with the negatives first, okay? Expand through that negative value. So here, that whole thing's going to be positive because a negative number squared is positive, but then it gets times by a negative number at the front here, but then that gets times by a negative number, so you're going to have a positive, and then whatever this is, which would be 9, okay? Then here you're going to have 9 times 3, what's that, 27, I think, I'll double check, 27, and then you've got that negative, so it's going to be positive 27 here, okay? So all that's sorted out. Here, you're going to have 9, but that's still going to be a negative, and here you're going to have 27. So here, when you're adding all this together, you can see the 9s cancel out. So you just have 27 plus 27, okay? Now 27 plus 27 is 54. So here look for 54 and D is the correct answer. If you have any questions about this one here, leave something in the comments and I'll get back to you, okay? If you want to try and timestamp it as well throughout the video, that would be perfect. That way I can get specifically to what you're asking a question about, alright? Question 4. The weekly amount of money a company spends on repairs is normally distributed with a mean of $1,200 and a standard deviation of $100. Given that the probability that the z-score is less than or equal to -2.5 is this, and the probability that the z-score is greater than 1 is this, where z is the standardized normal random variable, determine the probability that the weekly repair costs will be between $950 and $1,300. Okay, so here you have to have a good understanding of this topic in order to even read this question, okay? These are talking about z-scores, okay? Now, a z-score comes from this guy here, I'm pretty sure this is the formula for it, where this is the average of your normal curve, so your mean, and that's your standard deviation, and this is a data point, okay? Now, a couple things you've got to know pretty much about a normal distribution, okay? So here, if we draw this guy here, within one z-score of the mean, that's going to be 0.68% of the data. Within two z-scores, that's going to be, what's it called? 0.95. And I think when it hits to like 2.5, so that would be -2 and that'd be -1. When it hits to like -2.5, I'm pretty sure that's like 99%, okay? So here, this is what we know, okay? We've been given the z-score. So here, this first one, when we have z is less than or equal to -2.5, that is to the left of your curve, okay? So here, if I were to draw R1, so here if I draw it like this, so here, this is about when z equals -2.5. So this is the area it's talking about. This is the 0.0062. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And here, this is when the z-score is greater than 1. So here, the z-score is 1. And this here is 0.1587. Okay? Now, you need to work out pretty much, alright, what are these actual values we're actually talking about here? Okay? So we can use this formula to work out, alright, what data points they're actually referring to, so we can compare it to the costs, okay? Like all of these guys here, because remember, we're dealing with costs. This is the standard normal at the moment. So here, first one, go z equals 1, x equals 0.157. Well, actually, no, that'd be too hard to work out, because remember, this is a non-calc. Okay. I would try and convert actually even better. Convert these guys to z-scores to see where they're positioned. So I would go, alright, z equals, I would choose this one first, so go 950 minus the average, which is 1200, and divide by the standard deviation, which is 100, and then go z equals 1300 minus 1200, divide by 100. Okay, so this first one here, you're going to get, so 950 minus 1200, that's going to give you -250 over 100. So here, you get z is equal to -2.5. So pretty much, this number here matches this guy here. So this is when the cost is 950, okay? This one here, if we work this guy out, you get 100 over 100, so you get a z-score of 1. So this is when it's $1,300. So what they're asking is, alright, given that's the probability there, so that's less than -2.5, and given the probability that's the area when it's greater than 1 of z-score, if you want to work out the probability that's between here and here, you need to find this area here. Now, finding that area is actually quite easy because these numbers match exactly with these z-scores here. So this area will just be 1 minus 0.1587 plus 0.0062, okay? And whatever that number is going to give. So here you have to do this. Again, you have to do this all by hand, which is a huge pain in the ass. But it is pretty much what's going to happen here. So here we'll go, so 1, go 0, 0, 0, 0. How many decimal places do they have? 4. Let's just leave it like that. And we'll go minus 0.1587. And then minus 0. Actually, I would add these two together. I'm going to rub out some things because it's getting in the way. Let's go here. Let's go here. So 0.1587 plus 0.0062. So this is how you actually do this manually by hand. So here I would add these ones first, so you get 2. Add that, so add 3 to 7, that gives you 10. So put a 1 there, and then you have 3 left over, and then you have 9, and then you have 5, and then you have 1, and then you have 0. That. Okay. Now you go 1, 0, 0, 0, how many decimal? 5, minus 0.15932. Okay, so here you go pretty much, alright, take that across, oh actually what would that be, you want to make sure they all add up quite nicely. What would this be? I would say we could check one of these numbers here, so rather than doing arithmetic like here, we could probably compare with the answers. Now, looking at this here, I know it's not going to be B or A. That's too small. So I would test one of these numbers here. So I'm going to test, let's say, C. So let's go 0.8351, and let's go plus 0.15932. So here you get 2, you get 4, then you get, what's that going to be? 4, and then get 1, so that's going to be 4, and then you've got 9, and then 0 point. Okay. Now, I might have made an error here somewhere, potentially, but that looks a little too small. This would be still a little too big. Maybe there is an error here somewhere. Did I do the right decimal places? I'm just checking mine working now. 0.18, yeah. Yeah. 0.13. Here, I'll just check the calculator now, because I can do that. I don't really care. Minus, so I'm just going to calculate this value here. You would have to do this by hand, but it's just taking too long for the video. I'd like doing these in one take. Okay, 0.068. Here, I'll just actually do the whole calculation. So I'm going to do this guy up here, just to get rid of any error. So 1 minus this guy here. So 1 minus 0.1587 plus 0.062, 0.53. Yep, so if I chuck this in my calculator, it gives me 0.8351. Okay, so you got to be pretty careful when doing this stuff here, because I was getting some wrong answers here. Now, you would have to take a bit more time with it, pretty much, with the decimals, because remember, this is without a calculator, but just for the sake of the video, I just put it in my calculator. But the answer is C, okay? But the main concept is there, pretty much, working at that Z-score and that Z-score, okay? If you have any questions about this one here, leave something in the comments. I'll be happy to explain it in a bit more detail, but let's move on to the next one, okay? Alright, question 5. Which normal distribution best represents a normal distribution with a mean of 1 and a standard deviation of 0.5? Well, straight away, the mean is going to be the center. So here when it says -1, I know that's incorrect. Here, this isn't matched up with 1, so I also know that's incorrect. And then here, we've got two options, so they're 1 and -1. Now, 0.5 means it's going to be pretty much closer to the mean. So here, see how that's more spread out? That's not going to match that well. So here, between these two options, I would pick D, because the spread is only 0.5. That's a fairly big spread. That's a very small spread. So it makes a lot more sense to pick D. And I'm pretty sure that is the correct answer. Okay. Right, question 6. Which of the graph represents the function f of x equals -3 minus natural log of x plus 3? Well, so here, we have to account for the reflection and the horizontal shift, okay? This number here virtually does nothing with a log curve. All it does is it changes the x value slightly, okay? Now, the big ones here I'm paying attention to is the negative sign at the front here. Oh, that highlighting did not work. Here, I'll just underscore that. So this negative sign here and this here, okay? Now, if you have log of x plus 3, it's actually been shifted -3. So it's been shifted to the left by 3. So straight away, I know it's not C or D, because they've been shifted +3, okay? It has to be between A or B. Now, the log curve naturally looks like this, okay? So it looks like exactly like A, but notice A doesn't account for the negative sign. A negative in front of the log would turn upside down. So the correct answer is actually B. That would be the best thing that would represent this graph, okay? Right, let's go into the next one. Alright, question 7. A circle with a radius r and an internal angle of theta has the shaded segment as shown. If theta is in radians, the area of the shaded segment is given by, and then you're given all these options. Okay, so the biggest hint with these guys here is that it's already given in radians, okay? So any conversion of radians to degrees in the expression is going to be incorrect. So straight away I know that this one and this one are incorrect, purely because of this term here. They're converting from degrees to radians. It's already in radians, so it's neither one of these answers. Okay. Now, here we have the area of a sector built into it, and we have the area of a triangle. So here we need to know these two things, okay? So area of a triangle is a half BC sine A, where pretty much you have this structure here where you have B, C, and you have angle A there. Okay. Now area of a sector is a half r squared theta. Okay. Now this area here, it's not the full triangle, I don't think, or something like that. What would it be? Just trying to think. Well, internal radius, those are the same. So here what we could say is pretty much, so here if we were to fill out in this triangle here, so if we want the area of that triangle there, now that would include, a lot of people would put just the triangle bit, but it's not going to be that, it's going to include the sector as well. So here I would go area of a sector, and I'll go area of the triangle. So I would go, it would be the area of the sector, so area of sector minus the area of the triangle. Okay. So here I would go pretty much, I would substitute these, this is your B and this is your C. So here the area of your triangle would be a half r squared sine theta. So I would go area of a sector, so a half r squared theta minus a half r squared sine theta. I would take out what's common, so what's common in both of them is obviously this bit here. So here that would give you r squared on 2, and you'd have theta minus sine theta, and we would see which one works, and from that we can see that matches description B. So pretty much it's going to be the area of the triangle, so area of the sector, subtract the area of the triangle to give that little shaded bit there. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, leave something in the comments below and I'll try to explain in a bit more detail, but that's how you do that question there. Okay? Right, let's move on to the next one. So question 8. In a survey, 80 respondents exercised daily while 120 did not. When calculating the approximate 95% confidence interval for the proportion who exercise daily, the margin of error is. So the margin of error is your z-score times the square root of your proportion times by the complement of your proportion divided by the sample size. So here, 95% confidence interval, the z-score is 1.96. So your error is 1.96. Now here, we've pretty much got our proportion here. So 80 respondents exercised daily, so 120 did not. So the total population is 200. Okay, so straight away I know C and D are correct because they have 120. Okay, that's not the whole population, it's 200 because you have 80 that did and 120 that didn't. Now here you've got to work out, alright, what's 80 over 120 as a proportion? So here that would be 8 on 12, and what would that be? I'm pretty sure that'd be 0.4. Yeah. Now here, the only difference between B and A is this has 0.95 and that has the actual z-score. So the correct answer is A. So, it's actually not that bad of a question. I wouldn't say a lot of people get this wrong, but only if you know what pretty much you're talking about with this topic here. Okay. Right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so, this one here. The approximate area under the curve of f of x equals the square root of 2x plus 1 between 0 and 4. Using the trapezoidal rule for 4 strips is. So, trapezoidal rule pretty much is something like this. So here, we would have pretty much b minus a on 2n, and then pretty much you've got, what would this be? F of x naught plus 2 lots of all the ones in the middle. So like f of x1 plus f of x2, etc. And then you would have plus fxn on the outside. That's not in that bracket there. Okay. So here, my bounds. So my b is 4, and my a is 0, and my n is 4 because that's the number of strips. Okay. Now, I've got to break pretty much the number line into 4 strips. Okay. So what that means is I'm going to have a pair on each side. So here I've got a number line, and I want to try and break it into 4 strips. So I've got 0 and 4. So if I want to break it into 4, I'll just go 4 divided by 4. So I have 1. So that'd be 1, 2, and 3. So it gets 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 strips, but you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. Okay. Now, these are my x's. This is x of 0. Okay. This is x of 1. This is x of 2, etc. Okay. You need f of 0, f of x of 1, etc. So you need to chuck all these x values into here. Okay. So I'm going to write all this down below. So here, if you want the integral of a to b f of x dx using the what's it called, trapezium rule, it's going to be b minus a over 2n, and then you're going to have f of x of 0 plus, and then all these guys will be in the middle, and then this one will be on the end. So here you have 2, and you'll have f of x of 1, f of x of 2, plus f of x of 3. So that's all in that bracket there, and then you're going to have plus fx of 4. It just can't fit on this working here pretty much, okay? So we're going to work these out. So f of x of 0 is just f of 0. So chuck that into this function here, because remember, f of x is the square root of 2x plus 1. So this would pop up with functions you can't integrate in this syllabus. So here you just go square root 2 times 0 plus 1. So here that would give you 1. Okay. Remember, this is all without a calculator as well. So it's going to be a huge, pretty much stress with arithmetic. Okay. So x1, f of 1. So you're going to have square root of 2 times by 1 plus 1. So that gives you square root of 3. Okay. Then pretty much you're going to have x of 2, f of 2. So that's going to give you square root of 2 times 2 plus 1, which gives you the square root of 5. Then you have f of x of 3 equals f of 3. Now, it just so happens these numbers match up. They're not always going to match up, okay? Then you have square root of 2 times by 3 plus 1, so that would give you square root of 7. And then finally, f of x of 4 equals f of 4 equals square root of 2 times 4 plus 1, which would give you square root of 9, which is 3. Okay, righto. I'm going to rub all of this out. If you want to take a photo, you can, or a screenshot, or you can just rewind the video. It is on YouTube. Alright, let's get rid of all these guys. So, this takes forever. I like doing these questions raw, so you can actually see how long it would take. Now, obviously, these are going to take longer than usual because I'm explaining every single move I'm making. But for you, it would probably take a little bit faster than me, honestly. Okay? So here, this would go into here. Then all of these guys, so just these three, would go into here. And then this one would go on the outside. Okay? So this is the arithmetic you're working at. So you're going to have 4 minus 0 over 2 times by 4, and then you're going to have 1 plus 2, and then you're going to have all these numbers, root 3 plus root 5, I'm going to move that 1 now, plus root 7, and then we'll get rid of these guys. That's all getting times by 2, then you're going to have plus 3, and that's pretty much all you're working out here. So you want to try and simplify this best you can. So on the outside, you're going to have a half because you had 4 divided by 8, so you have a half. Then you're going to have 1 plus 3, which gives you 4. Then you're going to have 2 root 3 plus 2 root 5 plus 2 root 7. So all I did was distribute that 2 to each of these terms here, okay? Now I'm going to distribute the half. So here I'm going to have 2, and that half will cancel out every single 2 here. So you're going to have 2 plus root 3 plus root 5 plus root 7, okay? So, see which one matches perfectly. I'm pretty sure A matches it. There we go, okay? Again, all of this is 1 mark. So, if you're in a rush, skip over this question, to be honest with you, as a point of advice. Because it's not worth all of this, because this is time wasting. Like, you've got to work this out all by hand. Now, I'm pretty fast with it because I'm pretty good at arithmetic, but most people aren't going to be as fast with this stuff here. So, if you see this question and you're not confident with it, just skip over and come back to it later, because there's other questions you can be doing that's going to save, that's going to help you a lot more, okay? Righto, question 10. I think this is the final question. A survey plan to draw conclusions based on a random sample size of 1% of Queensland adult population to be regarded as a random sample. So a survey plans to draw a conclusion based on a random sample of 1% of Queensland adults population to be regarded as a random sample. Okay, so here they're basically saying, alright, in order for this to be a random sample, and then they've given the options here. The adults in the population will be placed in alphabetical order, and every 100 person will be selected for the sample. Okay, so here, that isn't random. That's systematically chosen. Okay, so you're choosing every 100 person. So that won't be a random sample. So no. Okay. Adults in the population can choose to participate until the sample size has been reached. That is not random because you're giving them a choice. A subgroup within the population will represent a similar proportion of the sample. Nope, that's not it either. Adults in the population will have an equal chance of being selected for a sample. That is a random sample. So D is the correct one. The rest of them are systematically chosen ones. They're not random, okay? Random is basically saying everyone has an equal chance of being selected regardless, okay? So there is no pattern to it, okay? Righto. That was longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be doing the short responses soon. But if you have any questions, I'll leave a timestamp, and I'll see you in the next one.